Like, you saying you doing this and doing that in your music, then y'all niggas gotta be really doing that shit. That's what Boosie want. And Pooh Shiesty, he gave it to him. You understand? He's saying he feel like the only rapper got more bodies than him on some shot calling shit, because ain't no way he talking about actually doing it. It's Boosie. And when you say that, you can't say that.
Lil Boosie is now facing potential federal scrutiny that has the entire hip-hoppy community on edge. And the reason goes back to something unexpected: his own protege pulling his name into a conversation that could threaten everything he built. Behind Pooh Shiesty's flashy comeback posts, he started talking about body counts in a way that forced Boosie to publicly check him for the first time. What really pushed this situation into the spotlight is darker than most people realize, and it all traces back to a single Instagram caption that may have reminded federal authorities why they once wanted Boosie behind bars in the first place. Yo, what's good, fam? Today we're diving into some serious street politics that's been shaking up the hip-hop world and may have just damaged one of the tightest relationships in the game. Before we break everything down, let's keep it real. Social media started buzzing after Pooh Shiesty dropped a post where he basically suggested that only one rapper might have more bodies than him, Boosie. But this isn't just about rap talk or online bragging. We're going to separate facts from rumors and explain why this situation carries real-world implications. When federal cases and past investigations are involved, words can have consequences far beyond music. March 2024 is when things started to shift between Pooh Shiesty and Boosie. The Memphis rapper had just come home from federal prison and was celebrating his return online. He posted a photo on Instagram showing off a new grill and looking fresh after his release. At first, it seemed like a normal comeback post, but the caption quickly grabbed attention across the rap world. And before people could dismiss it as typical rap bravado, the context made it a lot more serious. Boosie had recently managed to beat a major federal case and avoided heavy prison time, ending up with probation instead. Then suddenly, his own artist mentioned him in a way that put his name right back into conversations that federal investigators once focused on. The streets immediately started debating what this meant. Some people believe Pooh Shiesty simply made a careless mistake that could cause problems for both of them. Others think it might have been a calculated move meant to separate himself from Boosie and stand on his own reputation. Either way, the situation quickly turned into something bigger than a simple social media moment. On March 3, 2024, Pooh Shiesty, fresh out of prison and clearly enjoying his freedom, posted a picture showing off his jewelry and new look. The image itself wasn't controversial, but the caption changed everything. He wrote that there might be only one rapper with more bodies than him, and that person was Boosie. In street culture, talking about bodies isn't something people casually bring up online, especially when legal history and federal attention are part of the picture. And that's exactly why the post caught so many people off guard. Shiesty was supposed to be laying low after his release and rebuilding his career carefully. Instead, that caption sparked immediate reactions from people in Memphis and across the industry. Some commentators said it looked like he woke up with a reckless mindset and decided to stir up controversy. Others argued that he was simply giving Boosie recognition in a twisted way, almost like handing him flowers for the reputation people already associated with him. But this story goes deeper than reputation or rap credibility. In hip-hop, when artists talk about bodies or hats, it's not just slang for dominance. Those words can easily connect to real investigations, real accusations, and serious legal consequences. That's why people in Memphis quickly pushed back against the narrative. Several voices from the city argued that Shiesty wasn't talking about personally committing anything, but rather about influence and calling shots. Still, the response from his own city was harsh. Some people openly questioned the claim, asking where all these alleged bodies were if the numbers were really that high. Others said that if he wanted to make a bold statement, it would have made more sense to limit the comparison to rappers from Memphis rather than the entire rap industry. By bringing Boosie into it, the conversation suddenly touched on a much more complicated history. And that history is important. Boosie himself once faced one of the most serious legal battles in hip-hop. Back in 2009, he was charged with first murder and conspiracy charges that could have resulted in a life sentence. Prosecutors built their case around alleged connections to multiple homicides through an associate named Michael Marlowe, Mike Lauting. The situation dominated headlines at the time and placed Boosie under intense scrutiny from federal investigators and the public alike.
Baton Rouge Parish Grand Jury has indicted Torrance Hatch, otherwise known as Lil Boosie, on first-degree murder charges. Lil Boosie was indicted in the October 21st shooting death of Terry Boyd. Boosie and a girlfriend, along with a former Dixon Institute guard and inmate, were also indicted on drug charges. Michael Louding and Adrian Pittman are also indicted on first-degree charges for Boyd.
Let me break down the Marlo Mike situation because it's key to understanding why Pooh Shiesty's post raised so many eyebrows. Marlo Mike was allegedly a 15-year-old hitman who prosecutors claimed was connected to Boosie in a series of violent incidents, according to the allegations at the time. Boosie was accused of putting money on people's heads, while Marlo Mike was the one supposedly carrying out the shootings. The case centered on claims that Boosie ordered attacks against multiple individuals in Baton Rouge, including a man named Terry Boyd. Eventually, Marlo Mike cooperated with authorities and told investigators that Boosie had paid him to carry out several killings between 2009 and 2010. Prosecutors tried to present Boosie as the mastermind behind a long-running murder-for-hire scheme involving multiple victims. But the major turning point in the story is that Boosie ultimately beat the most serious accusations. After years of legal battles, consistently maintaining his innocence and having his defense team challenge the prosecution's claims, he avoided a potential life sentence. The jury did not convict him on the first-degree murder charges, and the case ended with him accepting lesser charges that resulted in time served along with probation. For anyone who understands the justice system, that outcome was huge. To really grasp how significant that was, you have to understand how federal cases usually work. Federal prosecutors have an extremely high conviction rate, often around 95%. By the time federal charges are filed, investigators typically believe they already have strong evidence and cooperating witnesses. So when someone manages to walk away from accusations that serious, it usually means the defense found major weaknesses in the government's case, or the evidence wasn't strong enough to prove the claims beyond a reasonable doubt. In the Marlo Mike case, prosecutors argued that Boosie would allegedly identify targets, provide money for weapons or transportation, and that the shootings would then be carried out by others. Authorities even claimed there were specific payments involved, with figures reportedly ranging from a few $1,000s per incident. However, Boosie's defense team pushed back hard against those claims. They argued that much of the prosecution's evidence was circumstantial, that some witnesses had credibility issues, and that there was no definitive proof linking Boosie directly to ordering specific crimes. Over time, the prosecution's timeline and witness testimony began to face serious challenges in court, which weakened the case significantly. That background is exactly why Pooh Shiesty's Instagram caption caused such a reaction. The concern isn't just about rap bragging or street credibility. Situations like this can draw unwanted attention from investigators, especially when past cases and serious allegations are already part of the history. As some commentators pointed out, statements like that can sometimes prompt law enforcement to take a second look at things they may have previously investigated. This is one of the biggest traps in rap culture. The same authenticity and street reputation that can make an artist's music feel real to fans can also keep them under a microscope from authorities. When an artist starts talking publicly about body counts or violent reputations, even if it's meant as exaggeration or image building, it can create narratives that outsiders, especially investigators, must start examining more closely. People in Memphis also pointed out how social media and online discussions can sometimes fuel these situations. Bloggers, documentaries, and commentary videos often analyze street politics in detail. Even if those videos aren't evidence themselves, they can highlight connections, timelines, or individuals that investigators might decide to look into further. In other words, public conversations sometimes end up creating investigative leads that didn't exist before. For anyone unfamiliar with how federal investigations in the music world can develop, the process usually involves connecting patterns over time rather than focusing on a single incident. Investigators look at a wide range of information: public statements, interviews, social media posts, phone records, and witness accounts to build a larger narrative about whether certain activities are connected. That's why comments about body counts or violent reputations can become sensitive when someone already has a complicated legal history. So when Pooh Shiesty mentioned Boosie in that context, it didn't just come across as another rap boast. To many observers, it reopened conversations about a case that once carried extremely serious consequences. And even though Boosie ultimately beat the most severe accusations, situations like this can still bring renewed attention to stories that many people believed were already behind him. That still doesn't mean an investigation is completely finished. Even when someone beats major charges, new information, witnesses, or evidence can sometimes push authorities to revisit parts of a case. That's why situations like this get so much attention. People who understand street culture say the ones who really separate talk from reality are homicide detectives. If someone truly has a reputation for serious activity, their name usually ends up on law enforcement's radar repeatedly. Real street credibility often comes with constant scrutiny from police and investigators. When rappers start publicly talking about bodies, they're not just creating an image for music, they're inviting that same level of attention. And sometimes it extends to anyone they mention. The reaction coming out of Memphis after Pooh Shiesty's post was intense and in some cases brutal. Several voices from his own city questioned the credibility behind the claims. Some people argued that bringing Boosie's name into the conversation didn't make sense and compared it to the way other artists speak about street conflicts in their music. Those comparisons only added fuel to the debate online and created a situation where both artists' reputations were being discussed from every angle. The bigger problem is that statements like this can put someone in a difficult position either way. If the claims are exaggerated for image or entertainment, they still create narratives that attract attention from the wrong places. But if someone is speaking literally about serious crimes, then they're essentially admitting two major offenses in a public space. That's why many people describe this kind of talk as a lose-lose situation. It brings unnecessary pressure not only to the person making the claims, but also to anyone whose name gets mentioned alongside them. In street culture, phrases like buddies or hats carry heavy meaning because they refer to involvement in violent incidents. Within that world, those references are often tied to reputation and fear. But when those same words are said publicly, especially on social media, they can quickly move from street talk into something much more serious. Artists sometimes walk a fine line between maintaining authenticity in their music and protecting themselves from legal consequences. Some commentators pointed out that online fame can distort how these situations are perceived. An artist might have millions of supporters on the internet, but the respect or fear that exists in real life is completely different from what people see through screens. Online, fans react to images and words, but in real life, reputations are shaped by direct experiences. The problem is that while street reputation may live in conversations and personal encounters, federal investigations rely heavily on digital footprints. Social media posts, messages, and recorded statements can all become permanent records that investigators examine, Boosie's reported. Reaction shows just how serious he viewed the situation. According to sources, when he saw the post, he quickly rejected the claim and made it clear he didn't want his name involved in that type of conversation. That response makes sense considering his legal history. After fighting through major charges and managing to avoid a life-changing sentence, the last thing he would want is to be pulled back into discussions about unsolved crimes or violent allegations. What makes the situation even more complicated is the history between Boosie and Pooh Shiesty. Their connection was built around mentorship and mutual respect. Boosie saw promise in the young Memphis rapper and supported his career. But a public statement like this can create tension because it suggests either a lack of awareness about the consequences or a willingness to ignore them entirely. Some analysts believe moments like this can permanently damage relationships in the industry. Artists often move with large circles of friends, crews, and associates, and not everyone around them thinks about the legal implications of what gets said online. When fans and the internet start amplifying those statements, it can push the narrative even further, sometimes turning small moments into major controversies. The timing also makes the situation more complicated. Pooh Shiesty had just returned home from federal prison, a moment when many people expected him to focus on rebuilding his career and staying away from anything that might create new problems. Instead, the post created headlines and sparked debates that brought unnecessary attention right back onto him. Some observers even suggested that comments like these could motivate investigators to look again at unsolved cases in places like Memphis or Louisiana, especially if they believe new information could surface. Even if nothing comes from it legally, that level of attention can still create pressure for someone trying to move forward with their life and career. At the end of the day, this situation goes far beyond rap bragging or online drama. It highlights how powerful words can be when they're tied to serious allegations, past investigations, and real-world consequences. In the modern music industry, where every post, lyric, and interview is recorded forever, artists have to balance the image they project with the realities that come with public attention. The rap trap is very real, and the industry has already seen many artists fall into it. The same authenticity that helps sell records and attract loyal fans can also place artists under intense scrutiny. When someone constantly talks about body counts or criminal activity online, it might feel like entertainment for the audience, but it can also draw attention from investigators who are always watching public statements. This situation highlights a deeper reality within hip-hop culture. Street authenticity has always been part of what makes certain artists connect with their audience. Fans want stories that feel real, raw, and connected to actual experiences. For many street rappers, that authenticity is what builds their brand and drives their success. But that same image can create pressure to constantly prove that reputation. In public, every interview, lyric, or social media post can feel like something that needs to reinforce the persona that fans expect. That pressure creates a difficult balance for many artists. The same stories that make their music powerful can also become a problem when viewed through a legal lens. What resonates with fans as storytelling might look very different to investigators or prosecutors who are analyzing statements and digital footprints. Boosie single quotes his reaction to the situation shows the kind of awareness that often comes from someone who has already gone through serious legal battles. After dealing with major charges and navigating the federal system, he understands that certain topics simply aren't worth discussing publicly. His response to Pooh Shiesty wasn't just about pride or reputation, it was about protecting himself and everything he has worked to rebuild. For someone who recently managed to avoid heavy federal punishment and move forward with probation instead of prison time, being pulled back into conversations about violent allegations is the last thing he would want. From that perspective, his strong reaction makes sense. Situations like this can reopen old narratives and attract attention that many people would rather leave in the past. The bigger question now is whether Pooh Shiesty learns from the moment or continues moving in a direction that could create more problems. The hip-hop world has seen too many talented artists lose opportunities because they struggled to separate their public image from the realities of legal consequences. Social media has only made that balance harder, because every post becomes permanent and can spread instantly across the internet. For younger artists coming into the industry, this situation serves as a reminder about how powerful words can be. What might seem like a simple caption or a moment of bravado online can quickly take on a much larger meaning once it reaches millions of people. Fans might see entertainment, but others might see something very different. Trust is also a huge factor in both street culture and the music business. When relationships are built on mentorship and loyalty, actions that potentially place someone else in a risky situation can damage that trust. Whether Boosie and Pooh Shiesty can fully repair their relationship after this moment is something only time will reveal. Looking at the bigger picture, the conversation also reflects a challenge facing the entire hip-hop community. Artists often feel caught between maintaining the authenticity that fans demand and protecting themselves from legal complications. The same audience that celebrates real stories sometimes becomes part of the pressure that pushes artists to prove themselves publicly. In the end, the timing of this situation couldn't be worse. Pooh Shiesty should be focused on rebuilding his career after prison and reconnecting with fans through his music. Boosie should be enjoying his freedom and concentrating on his business and creative projects. Instead, both of them are dealing with controversy that could have easily been avoided. What do you think about Pooh Shiesty's post and the impact it had on his relationship with Boosie? Do you think it was simply a careless mistake or something more calculated? And do you believe moments like this could lead to bigger consequences in the future? Drop your thoughts in the comments and check out the content on screen for more breakdowns of hip-hop stories and industry discussions. Stay safe out there, and remember, sometimes the smartest move is knowing when to stay silent.